Hello and welcome to Artists in the Wild, a podcast brought to you by Bitten Music. Today we're happy to introduce our very special guest, myself and Bitten Music founder, Jeff Jaskowiak. I think one of the biggest things about AI is every avenue you go down, you could just keep going down. There's so much information into it.
They're just learning how to remonetize the same old stuff that they have. It's in that's their catalog.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Artists in the Wild, a Bitten Music podcast. My name is Lucas, and I am here with Jeff Jaskowiak. How
Hello.
you doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, first things you might notice if you do watch this podcast is we're a little bit different today. So far, all of our episodes we have been with artists that are on our streaming service. But today, Jeff and I, we're just gonna have a discussion between the two of us. Little insight. Pretty much every time we meet to work on Bitten, we spend a good part of that morning just kind of talking about the new stuff happening in the industry. And if you follow the industry at all, you know that it seems to change every second. There's always something new coming out. But really, what kicked this off is a super, super big shift in modern streaming and AI usage and how those are going to possibly work together. So we were talking and we were like, you know what? Let's have a podcast on it. Let's just talk about it. And there's a lot of stuff that we're going to get into today. So feel free to sit down in with us. We're going to talk about a lot of cool stuff. And if you enjoy this style of content, please let us know because we would totally love to keep doing more. And while we get into it, why don't you introduce what's happening in the industry right now? What kind of shook us?
I was reading an article by Joel Govia. I think that's how you say his name, and he has a Substack article that he publishes regularly. And today's was called "The Power of the Derivative." And the thing that was really catchy, I knew it was going to be good by that title. And he was talking about how Spotify and Universal Music Group have been making deals to have people create music, new variations on already existing content.
Mm-hmm.
And his point was that sometimes musicians who create music think that their stuff's going to be around forever, And his point was bet you're lucky if you get 2 generations out of it. But by having new people kind of create with some of the old content, it brings it new life. And he had some different examples of that. So that's one of the things we were talking about too. And the other thing that caught my eye or my ears too, and was Tony Van Veen from Disc Makers. He puts out regular podcasts, and this one was super good. And he was talking about your music is already training AI, and it's basically depending on your distribution agreements that you have in your terms of service and things of that sort. And so, and one of the things that kind of another video that I would really suggest is another one by Zachary Schmiegel. It's I think that's Schmiegel, that's not his name. He says, "Why is Spotify failing everyone?" And that's a fantastic one too. Just talking about the world of Spotify. And then we think about these things all the time because Lucas and I we're partners in Bitten Music, and we're trying to make it grow and have people understand what the value of it and in creating this new community of artists and fans. And so we're always wrestling with these sorts of things. And currently we just renewed our website, and which is I'm really excited about. And if you want to take a look at Bitten Music, the layout in our landing pages looks really sharp. It took us some really slamming together, working on it.
Yeah.
And but then now we're trying to update our terms of use and terms of service, and it's in light of a lot of these aspects that we were going to be talking about, today, because we want to be able to be current, but at the same time emphasize how our artists own what they create. And if they have the rights to it already, they own it. We have no handle on it in any form. And so it's a right to terms of use so that it's clear and understanding that they have that they still there's no issue at all with internet. I mean, intellectual property. So IP. I was thinking,
Yeah, so, the big thing, everything that Jeff brought up, we're going to go in depth, but all of it ties into this major announcement, which I believe came out, what was it, last Thursday? I think it was
Mhm.
around last Thursday. Spotify and UMG, Universal Music Group, created a partnership over licensing and the use of generative AI covers. Now, first things first, this is probably one of the biggest steps of AI in my mind
Mhm.
in like recent time. Like AI obviously continues to grow because we've mentioned it before on other podcasts. We're kind of feeding the machine. It's learning off of us, and we're going to go more in depth on that. But this is like the first time that I think AI is being used in a way that is brand new.
Mhm.
And just in terms of how a company is monetizing off AI and how users are creating that money for them. So essentially, just to kind of uh, break down real quick what it actually is Spotify and UMG have a licensing deal where premium users of Spotify can create covers using generative AI of any songs in the UMG catalog. And every single one of those covers are monetized. And a check gets cut to the master owner and to UMG. So, as a little example, Joel used in his article, which will be linked in the description below, if someone wanted to write or I shouldn't say write, but create a acoustic cover of Billie Eilish's "Birds of a Feather," so they go on Spotify and I want to hear an acoustic version of that song, and generative AI creates it. The moment that is created, both I believe it was, I can't remember. I think it was called Interpol, but I could be wrong in that. But the master owners of Billy's music and UMG will get a check immediately. So, first things first, Spotify has roughly around 761 monthly active users. That's a lot of people.
Is that the high? Is that the premium?
Yeah,
Okay.
premium.
Okay.
Those people, if they use this and a check gets cut every single time, first off, the amount of money that this makes, because you got to think how easy it is. Boom, boom, boom. I got the new song. I got the cover.
You know what?
Checks are
Or
out.
else, boom, boom, boom. I'll do it again. I don't really like that part of it.
Hmm.
Do it again. Okay, one more time. Boom, boom. Okay, version 10. There's
Yeah,
been 10 versions cut.
and that's one person.
Yeah,
Imagine that with all these people.
yeah.
So clearly, this deal for the companies is a huge moneymaker. And I think that's where I'd want to kind of start the conversation.
Okay, why is it a huge money maker?
Why is it a huge moneymaker?
Yeah.
Well, because, like I said before, every single time a cover is made, checks are getting cut, money is starting to be made.
Who's cutting the checks?
Um, it's getting cut and going to the master owner and UMG
But
based on
by
the
Spotify?
that I don't know. In the article, it didn't clarify who cuts that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm assuming it's
It's
Spotify
part of the
or
agreement.
or yeah, something within their licensing.
Yeah.
That I don't know for sure. But regardless, money is starting to get generated like that. Now, this is where I kind of want to start because we had kind of loosely talked about this earlier. Um, Spotify has been around for a while. And the big thing with Spotify is they have been the ones that have wanted to set the standard so they can make the money.
Right.
Everything that they've done has been for them.
Mhm. As it's stated in that, uh, video by Zachary, Smeagol that the 2, co-owners were ad guys. They're not
Yeah.
musicians. Yep.
So everything that Spotify has done from the very beginning up until now obviously has been to build the company up. And, we've discussed this, for a long time. It's a big part of our identity is Spotify does not treat its artists like artists. You are merely a cog in the machine that keeps sending the money up. You are free labor, essentially.
Mhm.
You generate this art, put it up there, and then they put their hand in the cookie jar and
Thank you again.
maybe there's a crumb in there.
Mhm.
Maybe. We don't know. But they're definitely taking that cookie though.
Mhm.
So everything they've done has been getting money to them, to their stockholders, to any company they're in partnership with. And this is yet another um, example of this. And, some people might say, like, oh, this is cool. This is giving, people that aren't artists or make music a chance to create. They don't care about that at all. It just and Joel put it exceptionally well in his article. They don't care about the soul or what it took for that art to get made. They're just happy that there's now a toll booth
Mhm.
and there's finally another way that this stuff can get monetized. So first things first, there is no like genuine like want for creation for sake of creation. It is purely just another way that money can be made. So that's the first thing I wanted to say is because this isn't a company that has that musician heart, that
Mhm.
artist heart, every decision they made is for money. And the integrity of the art behind it is not it's not even an afterthought. It's not part of it. It's just let's create as much content as possible, get as much stuff out there, and then we reap the rewards.
So in the derivatives that he was saying, it's almost like there's a hidden partner in it. I mean, because if you're gonna if, like, it's Spotify a deal, right, that they're making with UMG that they can, saying, "Okay, you can" cr y UMG saying, "Okay, anything in our catalog can be made a derivative of in a remix, and it can be done on Spotify." But how do you do that?
Mm.
Do you have to do it is Suno is the hidden partner to be
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
do the remix?
What
Yeah,
AI is being
yeah.
used.
Some sort of AI
So Spotify has launched out kind of some soft AI like
tools.
tools. Like they have a playlist creation where now instead of you going through songs and adding them to your playlist, you could go, I'm going on a trip to Wisconsin. Make me a 2 hour long playlist that, has the vibe of going on a trip to Wisconsin. And it'll generate whatever that is.
Mhm.
And so there's that
So
aspect.
will it compile music already created, or will it actually
It,
do
it'll it'll be music that's already created. So
okay.
it'll make a playlist of whatever.
Yeah,
So you could get like a John Denver song on there or something
yeah.
like that. Um, so that has been kind of like one of the ways that AI has been used so far, but it's still been primarily used for like curation
Mhm.
as opposed to creation. Um, Now, obviously, this changes it, but I don't know what AI platform, if Spotify had built their own or if it was outsourced to like ChatGPT or, I mean, I guess OpenAI or Suno. I don't know if there was a third party involved in
Didn't
the.
say in the article, did it?
It didn't say in the
Yeah,
article.
because if it infers it though, that
Hmm.
there has to be some sort of, in a sense,
So I mean,
some sort of
something's
like DAW thing where you can put things together
yeah,
and
something's got to be creating it.
yeah.
So now, uh, in since we're talking about Joel's article, "The Power of the Derivative," the first thing I want to say is this article is like a 50-50 balance of hope and dismay
Mhm.
because
It's pretty much what all these are. They're like
Yeah,
that, yeah.
and I like that because I think it gives valid arguments to both sides of the aisle, right? Um, AI in the music industry, I feel, is a pretty like or this. You know, you're either with it or you're against it. You could be in the middle, but I feel like the middle people are just like, I just don't know what to make of it because there's so much, and I get that. I mean, I find myself there sometimes because it's just like it's just constantly evolving. It's hard to have a stance on everything when it's just like the next day a new thing is out or the industry is changed in a new way.
Mhm.
And he kind of breaks down two big avenues as to why we shouldn't be afraid of AI and why we might want to be a little concerned about what this does
Mhm.
for AI. The first thing he brought up, which right away I was reading the article before this and I immediately looked at Jeff and I said, "Oh, this is great. Like I'm so excited to talk about this." Joel talks about this in New York City, the Canal Street market, where there's all these vendors and they all have fake versions of these multi-billion-dollar companies like handbags or stuff like that. So, they have fake Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, all of that stuff. Kind of like the Temu versions
Yeah.
of whatever. Going for like 40 bucks.
Mhm.
Where he said 10 minutes down the road, you get that same or not the same, but you get that style and you'd pay $10,000 for it. And
The original.
for the original. And he raised a question. He asked, why are they not upset at this? Why are they not like
"No, you can't
trying
do
to shut
this."
this down?
Yeah.
And he thought, well, maybe at one point they were, but he brought up the idea that the math maybe still showed that the company was still above, that there was no real threat behind these fake bags. In fact, he said all they really do is advertise it. That these fake bags have a lack of authenticity behind them. They may look similar or kind of give off
Mhm.
the same vibe at a glance, but he said if you hold a real Louis Vuitton bag, you could feel the weight, the genuineness of the leather, the heaviness of the stitching, like just how much more it's like, all right, this is the real deal. And those that use the fake one, he said, he had a really cool phrase called, I wanted this, but I couldn't have it. And that's what that is.
Mhm.
And then he obviously brought up this is kind of what the music industry is right now with AI. That the AI is these Timu versions, and then the actual music made by humans is the $10,000 Louis Vuitton bag. So just with that, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? There's so much we could talk about with just that analogy of things and how that could possibly advertise to the true product, the real musicians, the real artists.
I thought, yeah, that's an interesting idea. Um, see, I think I'd like to still continue on going, okay, um, when you're using, like, for example, when you're using, some Suno or Udio, um, and we kinda went off on this topic simultaneously to this, was, like, I had a friend, he just sent me we wrote a song together about 5 years ago, and it was really, uh, terrific. He did a great job on the lyrics, and then I spent some time with writing a guitar part, and I have a really nice guitar, sounds really great, and, I tried to really make the part, um, nuanced, and so we just recorded it on our phone just to archive it, and
Mhm.
so he goes, "Let me give it a go," and, I'd like he said, "Do you still have that?" I said, "Yeah," so I sent it to him, and he took it out and and he put it worked it with Suno, and, um, and then he sent it back to me, and I just went, "Okay, here's my thoughts on this song." And again, it was his song that he wrote,
Mhm.
and and I liked what he originally did with me, and, it was that he had his own passion that he brought as a both writer and singer, um, but I said, "Okay, this version sounds dorky and synthetic." And again, this is one of my I was a best man at his wedding. He
Yeah.
was the best man at mine.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, I usually talk to him like this,
Yeah.
and so and then I said, "Oh, yeah," and I said, "It doesn't sell it. The song is not you're not selling me, on this thing." He said, "You would sell it." I said, "The way you sing it, you know, would sell it." And I said, "And anyway, the guitar part, the sound of the guitar and the arrangement it came up with," I said, "they were not even close," you know?
Mhm.
So and I said, "So if you gave me this song," I said, "Here, listen to this song." I said, "I would never listen to it again." You know? And so again, using that idea of the authentic,
Yeah.
versus, the
Synthetic.
knockoff,
Yeah.
so that I honestly feel like, but he was going, "Yeah, I know, but I don't live I'm gonna be in Thailand, I'm not gonna be
Yeah.
able to connect with you." And I go, I get it," so there's always the idea that, it's quick and it's fast, but it does and so I, but you brought up an idea that I think is really worth I think is probably one of the big points of this whole time is that when you do this sort of thing, because this is what I told him too about that situation. I said, when you put that in, that was watermarked by Suno.
Mhm.
That this moment in time that you gave us this prompt with this music was tagged,
Yep.
and it was saying, okay, this has been um so if anything ever really happened with that music,
Mhm.
um, what's the term you used? Royalty,
Input.
the yeah, how do you determine the royalty input of that transaction? Who owns that?
Mhm.
Because
What's the
even though
splits?
yeah, how do you do splits with AI?
Yeah.
You know? And see, I think that is really the heart of the issue right now.
Mhm.
Who owns it? And like if something gets really, you know, it's always this. It's always who's making the money. If you're not making any money, they're not interested in you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, but if you are making some money, say, like again, like when I was talking to one of my colleagues, he was saying, the music supervisors are going all over that he works with. He sends a lot of music out. They go, capitals, no AI music.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that you might not like it or it's not good or whatever. It's just that there's too many headaches with
Mhm.
it. There's too many who owns what? What is the royalty input of that particular stuff that has been sent to me? So they don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
I still feel like so for example, even in our situation, which is, we gave them more than you usually give them. See, I feel like in the AI world, the people that use this the most probably are lyricists and songwriters,
Mhm.
that maybe don't have access to a lot of players or bands and
Mhm.
things like that. So, but they might be okay, an idea of contours of the singing and what they want, so they can prompt it out to what they
Yeah.
want. And I know in Nashville where, people are doing demos, that is like the case now more and more.
Yeah.
Where they used to have bands come in for a day and do, 15, 20 demos of the
Yeah.
different things. Now they just go, okay, here's the thing. Okay, how about the country? Okay, make it a little more reggae.
Mhm.
Okay, make it a little bit more punk. Okay, make it a little bit more Eagles like.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. And so they sculpted it. It only takes them 10 minutes, and they got the full blown thing.
Yeah.
So where is what was the term that one guy used in there about the royalty? Not we. I mean, royalty input was the thing that we came up with, but the subdivision um, of well, we'll get back to it. It's just like how when the royalty. Uh, oh, it was in Tony Van Dien's thing. Okay, so this is what Tony Van Dien was saying. Is there going to ever be a point where there's going to be some revenue sharing based on AI usage? Because that's the situation that I gave with my friend. There was some component that built out the song that they did and some that, we did. But it learned from somebody else,
Hmm.
and the thing is there going to be a situation where and really Joel Jovini's or Jovina's sorry. Article previous to that was talking about, that kind of, but I could live with that.
Uh-huh.
I could live with a situation where, okay, if because everything is tagged anyway.
Hmm.
Everything they had to learn it somewhere. They know where they studied. They're just not telling you how they did it,
Yeah.
But there's archives of the training.
Yeah.
So if there's archives of the training, why can't there be some sort of revenue sharing be part of the model? Then it could actually be a thing of, okay, well, then that is a stream of income, but it's probably going to end up like you always were saying with the Spotify. It's mostly going to benefit the
Yeah.
streaming services and the big, you know,
The
sure.
big partners and shareholders
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all
yeah.
that. So, you know, I think one of the biggest things about AI is every avenue you go down, you could just keep going down because there's so much information into it. I mean, for instance, you brought up training,
Mhm,
and I loosely talked about it earlier, but um, you know, the YouTube video that you were mentioning from the channel Disc Makers, which will also be in the description below. Highly recommend also watching that video because there's a lot of really interesting thoughts behind that. But one of the things is just how AI is being trained off of our music. And one of the biggest training grounds is YouTube. And all of the stuff that we have made has been used to train these models and basically allow it to have the language to generate. And one of the highest um, culprits behind this is the distributors. In their user agreements, they allow that it will be trained by AI or it will allow AI to train off of it, but it does not say it will protect you from that.
mhm,
And that's a big thing because, and I want to look at my notes here. As of right now, kind of what you were saying with like the revenue sharing, there is no compensation on your music training AI. So let's just take this for a second. All right. The industry of music and basically every industry in the whole entire world revolves around one thing: money.
mhm,
Who gets it and how much do they get? And what do they do to earn that much? With the music industry, money since the dawn of the industry has been a big talking point, and it has primarily been a big talking point among artists because it's always the artist not getting paid anything or what they deserve.
mhm,
And that's just for the longest time. I mean, why the Beatles created their record label. Kanye West had a big moment with that. Taylor Swift with getting her masters back
mhm.
or re-recording her older records so she could own those and had her fans stream those as opposed to her older ones
Originals.
where she did not own that. I mean, ownership and the royalty is one of the big has been one of the biggest talking points. So now let's add AI into this picture, right? You create something that is actively training a competitor. Something that is able to churn out music, whether that's good or not, that's up to debate. But just if we speak directly on the time, AI is going to write a song faster than you ever can,
Mhm,
just because it can. Now, did we help it by doing that? If I said, if I asked it to write a song like this in like a metal genre, is it going to write it quick because of all the metal that it has scraped off the internet and learned? Yeah. So now the begs the question, all right, if it's using my material, where's my compensation for that? Because there's compensation if someone samples something for you, like if an artist samples one of your recordings, or if there's a cover being made, or if there's it's being synced into a movie or a TV show,
Mhm.
anytime your music is used in something, there's some sort of payment. But yet here we are, and your music is just being used to teach this program, and there's no compensation. So that brings up a good idea of, all right, in the future of AI, is the compensation going to be applied?
There's gonna be revenue sharing.
Is
Is
it,
there? Yeah,
like you were saying, is there
yeah.
going to be revenue sharing? Um, and one of the things with like distributors and how, you know, distributors, their big thing is they are a pipeline. They're the man that takes the music from point A to point B as quickly as possible, and just keep shoving music down the
Yeah,
pipeline to go to all these
right.
different things, right? Um, but the only thing that stops them now, that they will red flag, is if it's impersonating someone, an artist, like if you're impersonating Drake or Taylor Swift, or if it is copyright infringement. But if you make an AI song and own the rights to it, you could throw that up. So you could throw a song up that you created through a generative AI like Suno, that was trained from someone else's work, throw it on, and then technically and legally are now able to make royalties off that. While that person that had their music trained for that receives nothing. So that brings up an issue. Um, Another thing that I want to bring up with AI and the music industry is, there's a lot of these suits going on. And in the disc makers video, he brought up a really good point. The music industry is not trying to stop AI.
Mhm.
I mean, he said AI isn't coming anymore. It's already here, and it's here to stay. And
Like drum machines, like
like drum
DAWs.
machines, yeah.
Yeah.
Every every step in the industry has always been met with pushback and has stayed. I mean, I believe AI isn't going anywhere in our lifetime. It's, if anything, it's only going up.
See, but, like, here's the thing, if it's so obvious that like the song that I just did with, with my buddy, it it was so obviously, you know, made with things it was trained on.
Hmm.
Um, what I guess, in what ways are I still feel like the real question here is, again, what is, what constitute a royalty input? What
Hmm.
constitutes, okay, um, did I add, was my lyrics, copyrightable,
Hmm.
but the AI background isn't,
Yeah.
you know, and so then if I just say, okay, I am going to put that, what I did, like he used some AI oriented artists. Well, so is the artist just making the money if they just put it up, or is there any kind of, you know, I guess, compensation back to the company of that generated that?
You had brought this up earlier when we were discussing, and this is where my head was going with like the whole idea of like royalty input, which we kind of just used as a term for.
We're trying to establish that in the industry, by the way,
Yeah.
is because I really do feel like it is like kind of the hook of what is the issue here.
Yeah. Because when you
What was the how do you basically measure the royalty input
yeah,
for what you're creating? Because if AI is not going away and people are using it,
then grounds have to be
yeah,
made
yeah. So
for
because, like, even
legal.
if you just do something, you throw it out there and people go, okay, here's some horn part ideas. I listen to them. It's just almost like if you and I were talking about, okay, well, I wanted to hear, like I have this song and I'd like to hear some horns on it, and you gave me these really cool ideas, and so we would establish, oh yeah, this is a split.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we establish a split with
With a
an AI?
machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like traditionally, if you don't know, split sheets are kind of what happens behind the scenes of a song. when there's multiple writers in the room, it's an agreement between everyone that was involved in the creation process of what they added to the song and the percent or worth of their addition. So, like Jeff said, if me and him worked on a song, we could be cool and just be like, let's just do 50-50 split. And every time a royalty comes in, whatever that may be, that gets split, or our portion of that royalty, if we're in a record label, gets split 50-50 between the two of us. More people get added, or say Jeff wrote majority of it, but I came up with the tagline. He might go, I'll give you 60% because the name of the song is based off what you said or whatever. So there's this environment of, this is what I brought to the table, this is what you brought to the table. Shift the focus to AI. If you
That's a good image.
Yeah.
Here's the table. Here's me and you, and then we have an AI here.
Yeah.
Okay, how much did you add to this?
Yeah. Mr.
All
AI,
of
what
it.
did you add?
All of it.
But that brings a good point though, because with generative AI, you could give very little input or a lot of input, and that greatly changes the outcome. So you had brought up the example when we were kind of discussing this earlier. If you sent in a voice memo, 30 seconds of you just humming a melody, and you said, turn this into a
Yeah, I'll do it.
string section.
Do 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 do. Okay, turn that into a string section, enhance it, make it into a symphony,
Mhm.
and then make it into a B section. I'd like to have some brass in it eventually,
Yeah.
and lots of percussion at the end.
Cool. So generate, boom, you got your song. Begins with that melody that Jeff created, but you said create a B section. So maybe that B section now has a completely brand new melody, right? It's a B section, maybe it's in a different key. It might have, motifs of what you said,
Or the tempo.
or tempo, but it could be its own thing completely generated by the AI.
Mhm.
So now that is something that you didn't create. You asked it to create, you gave it the input, but now that's where we bring the question, would you writing that, do you earn money off that? Does that section of music, if that was a human, what would the split look like? Because you have just that main melody, but now there's a whole song with extra stuff that you asked it to do, but the actual melodies and creations were generated not by you. So then let's say this symphonic song gets synced to a big movie. Now, like you had said, they're saying no AI music because of this headache that could come. But let's say someone didn't do that, and the next big blockbuster comes out, and they're like, that song is so cool. We want that to be the theme of this movie.
Okay, but then they do this. They take it,
Mm-hmm.
but not what I gave them. They take what I created, and like the file.
Yeah, you
But
send them the
then,
file.
they subdivide it out and have somebody else rewrite it.
Mhm.
They'll write it out so they have a real orchestra play it.
Yeah,
And a real if they have singers or other elements of just basically an
they do
orchestra.
like a studio produced version
Yeah,
of what you gave
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. So then what happens?
Yeah, because now you have, all right, this is a big song on a big project, right? And you said one of the big things why these people are not wanting it is because the headache of now, Suno goes, oh, something that was used with us is now making
We have a watermark
money.
on it.
We have a watermark. Now, what can they say? Can they say, well, we technically generated the whole song ourselves with our programming, our algorithm. So the money's ours. Well, then you could say, yeah, well, the melody was mine. Yeah, the melody was yours, but then we took it and expanded it and contributed more than your melody. So then would they have the larger split? Would it be theirs? And now that brings into question, what is yours and what is AI's? Just like you were saying. And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think that's
Because I think that's the Wild West of AI
yeah.
generated music.
And
I know, and it's going that way too. There was a big lawsuit just recently of somebody just created a book and they just found out it was mostly AI generated.
Mhm.
under this kind of important, I think famous author's name,
Yeah.
and they're going, huh, like who really owns that, and who's gonna are they gonna publish it? Are they gonna,
Yeah.
And I think right now they're gonna be gun shy. People
Yeah.
are gonna be gun shy of. That's why the music distributors go, no AI music. We don't even want to. But there's gonna be a time in the future where maybe that's what has to happen. It has to be a situation of um is there going to be some sort of revenue sharing? And if that AI was in the room with us right now, what percentage would of the split would it get, and how do you determine that?
hmm
You know,
Because if you know,
because then I could see musicians doing it.
mhm,
Because then they would be basically saying, okay, you know what? I live in Podunk, Montana. I don't
mhm,
have anybody around me that plays. I play guitar, and I don't know anybody else within 20 miles of me,
yeah,
that plays music. But I have all these ideas,
mhm,
and so they go, okay, well, here I put down, I give them a good portion of thought and ideas, and I, prompt it up to something, pretty good, and then, and everybody's kind of settled with it, and they sounds good, and I go, I could think of, all right, yeah, I'll split it with them,
mhm,
because they were like my collaborator,
yeah,
my long distance collaborator.
yeah.
Is AI a long distance collaborator? You know,
I think the trickiest thing with this though, with the idea of collaboration and splits, is again back to royalty input, that term we're trying to coin. When if I write a prompt that's very open ended, right? Say you give that melody to them, and then you just write, and they just maybe do a version that's 30 seconds long that's just your melody, and that's it. And you just go, can you expand on that? That means anything's on the table. You gave no direction other than just make more. So then everything else is being generated by them. But if you went into the nitty gritty of, I want 4 bars in G Ionian. I want the melody to be 16th note runs from the root to the fifth, back to the third, back to the second. You get like, you basically spell it out without performing it. Every single thing. It generates it, but all of it was from your instruction. So would then that be worth more for you than the AI if you give it that much instruction, to where the way that that section is played to a T was because of you. Not just to write a section B and the melody's new and that was created by AI with no input from you other than just make a new section.
mhm.
But if you wrote down what that section is, what notes, the rhythm of that section, the style, everything, well then does that become yours? Does that
Well,
become
let's
part of your
well,
split
well,
because you gave more input?
yeah,
So is the royalty, is do you earn more because you put more input?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's the idea of what I was trying to, when we were wrestling with that idea and I came up with royalty input, that was my idea. Because with AI you could go very little info or a lot of info to generate something.
Yeah, but like, say for example, taking the same exact example
Mhm.
that you just said, and you just say, okay, I had this little melody, and give me something with it. You said it,
Mhm.
and then you go, build it out, and you go, do it again,
Mhm.
make it a little faster, just little basic stuff,
Mhm.
make it longer. You know what? Do it again, one more time.
Yeah.
And then finally it goes, "Oh, okay, I like this." Then you go and do that.
Mm.
Then because you've been doing vague, 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 vague. Okay, now you got it.
Mhm.
And then now you say, "Do this with this, that. Take this and take that and take this." So there's different layers of prompting you've
Mhm.
done, vague, 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 enough specific.
But then I mean, just to
Yeah,
counteract,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
like you said, this is why I was, and this is just for almost my own
Yeah,
entertainment,
yeah, yeah.
just for the
This is supposedly
possible,
for everybody's entertainment.
for the possible situation. So say, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
we have
yeah.
prompt one, do this, do this, do this. All right, now we're getting somewhere. Now let's get into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
Can they claim, just like with actual songwriter splits, where like you wouldn't have come up with that idea if I didn't do this first. So then you would be like, all right, well, I got to my idea because of what you did first. So maybe we'll split it more like this. Could you then look at, you wouldn't have gotten to the ideas to do here if it didn't come up with everything here.
I know.
So then, because then the argument could be made
Mine. They're going.
that
AI's going.
you got to
Mine, mine,
this
mine,
part.
mine.
Yeah. That you got to this part
Yeah.
because we generated this.
Yeah.
So you might have had some ideas here, but
Yeah.
you would never have had them
Yeah.
if we didn't generate A, B, and C. And
D and
that's
E and F and G,
yeah.
H, and all those.
And I think this is where it gets really hard. Is
And do
because
you
of how
think all these
fast it
companies
is.
are going to be generous?
No.
No. See,
No, again,
that's
and
the
then
real.
this is why I bring. I mean, this
Yeah.
just goes back to the whole idea of the covers, right? Back to the Spotify and UMG thing. It's not for us.
Yeah.
It's never for us.
Yeah.
It's for them. It's always, the money goes up.
Yeah.
It very rarely goes down to the people that create something or generate something. So
They're just kind of like, maybe it's a situation where they're just learning how to remonetize the same old stuff.
Yeah.
That they have. It's in a that's their catalog, that they have.
mhm.
And so it's just like in the old days, oh, we used to have it on cassettes. Oh, now there's these things called CDs.
Mhm.
Let's put it on CDs. And so then they have to you have to get the same thing
And
on
this
CD.
brings back a good point of what you said about, and this was in the article about the longevity of a song.
Yeah.
Which the idea of the longevity of a song, you had brought up earlier that, a song would typically last 2 generations.
If that.
And he had brought up the example of, can you name a song from 1930? Most people can maybe at most name 2. Everything else, forgotten. Tons of music. It's not like there was 5 songs in 1930. Tons of music.
All the time. Every day.
But what has, but there is some music that has stayed over the course of time. There's Beethoven music that has stayed over the course of time because it has been used and covered and put in a lot of things so that, this song from before anyone on the earth was born currently is still being played and known. So he brought up the idea of how a cover can both help and hurt the original song. The first one in terms of helping was when Dua Lipa and Elton John did a collab in 2021. They did a collab where there was a lot of like moments from Elton John songs in that song, like the Rocket Man chorus was in there and all of that, and how Dua Lipa being a modern pop artist and Elton John being a pop artist from the past, that kids nowadays would not probably have known Elton John unless their parents introduced them or like maybe there was a song in a movie, but they wouldn't know who he is. But now, because of Dua Lipa, a modern pop artist, a very famous artist, did that cover with him, his music, he said that in the article, Joel said that Dua Lipa bought Elton John another 100 years of relevancy.
Yeah.
That now, because of that, it's like a fresh start.
Yeah.
And now that song's legacy gets to continue.
And who makes the money?
Yeah, and that brings who makes the money. So that was like the good side of a cover.
Yeah.
The bad side of a cover, and then we'll get into how this could be affected by AI. But just let's talk like humans first. Was the song "Respect," which he brought up. So
was Otis Redding.
Yeah, Otis Redding was the original. Wrote the song "Respect." But right now, I'm sure when I said "Respect," everyone thought of Aretha Franklin's version. And
Blues
yeah.
Brothers.
So we have this song that's gotten covered,
Yeah.
and the cover is more famous culturally than the original. Now, legally, the rights owner, the writer, all of that is Otis. But culturally, the one that is more popular is Aretha Franklin's. And Otis said when he quotes Joel quotes Otis in saying he introduced this song at a show, This is respect. This is a song that a girl stole from me. And the idea of
Did you
like,
say steel? Did you say steel?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
because it also like the context behind the song changed.
Mhm.
Like Otis's was the
Well, she
idea of
retooled it.
she
Yeah,
retooled
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
to like a feminist anthem where the
Yeah,
original one
right.
was like the man like I want you to respect me when I come home. So like two different like
Projections.
projections of the same song. One became more popular and like I said, when anyone says, "Oh, do you know the song Respect?" Guarantee most people are going to think of her version.
I didn't even notice Otis Redding wrote it.
So, but
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
You could also look at Proud Mary by Tina Turner
Mhm,
and how that's, goes back to CCR.
mhm.
And, you know, there's all these songs that people are known for more than the original. All right. Well, guys, we're gonna wrap up the podcast here. There's a lot that we are still gonna get into, and we want to break this up into a more digestible pieces. So join us in our next episode where we're gonna go over the breakdown of AI covers even more, and what that looks like, and then break down into some new rules that Spotify has created. So if you enjoy this podcast, feel free to look at our other Artists in the Wild podcast with multiple artists that are from Bits and Music. Uh, the links to the videos that we have referenced and the article that we referenced will be in the description below. Same with our website, which, as Jeff had brought up, is brand new looking and looks nice and fresh. So let us know your thoughts on that. And if you're interested in joining Bits and Music as either an artist or subscriber, feel free to reach out to us, get a coupon to give it out a try. And we hope to see you guys soon in the next video. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning into Artists in the Wild with our special guest, Jeff Jaskowiak. Be sure to tune into part 2 coming out soon. Thank you. See you in the next one.